Good evening and welcome to the Sahuarita Unified School District Board meeting. At this time, could everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll move to the roll call. Ms. Huey.
Governing Board President Denise Reese.
Here.
Governing Board Clerk Dr. John Sparks.
Here.
Governing Board Member Sherry Lowell. Here. Governing Board Member Kevin Opalka.
Here.
Governing Board Member Nicole Warner. Absent. District Superintendent Dr. Manuel Valenzuela.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Scott Downs.
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Brett Bonner.
Here.
Chief Financial Officer Lisette Huey. Here.
Thank you. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. President Reese, members of the board, after reviewing consideration, I do recommend approval of the agenda as it was revised.
We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to the ratification of the vouchers. Ms. Huey.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I recommend payroll ratification number 22 and 23, new payroll 25.2, and new payroll 26 for a grand total of $9,380,403.80. Additionally, I recommend expense vouchers 1085 and 1086, and new expense vouchers 1095 through 1098. For a total of expense vouchers of $8,792,942.69 for a grand total of ratification and new vouchers of $18,173,346.49.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the Superintendent Report. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, President Reese, members of the board. I'd be remiss if I didn't begin pointing out the horrific tragedy of the last couple of days. I did want to mention that there will be a letter forthcoming to all of our Sahuarita families from my office this evening, addressing some of the issues and just kind of affirming some of the basic points and maybe perhaps some additional next steps as we continue relentlessly in the never-ending quest of making our schools as safe as they can be. At this point, before I go on with any other points in my report, I would ask if it would be appropriate, President Reese, to take a brief moment of silence in memory of those lives lost. Thank you. I would like to convey that we had a very successful close to our school year, and I would point out that we graduated almost 500 high school students from both Walden Grove and Sahuarita High School, and also from Sahuarita Digital Pathways Academy. So our growth trajectory continues, and I must say it was really affirming to have a good old-fashioned traditional community full-scale commencement exercises. I also have some exciting news to share that literally I just received within the last several hours, I would say, and that is that two of our school leaders, our principals, are being recognized by Arizona and National Administrators Association for their excellence in leadership. Mrs. Darlene Robinson has been named the Arizona Distinguished Administrator for Elementary Level by the Arizona School Administrators. And the National Association of Secondary School Principals has identified Arizona's Secondary Principal of the Year, and it's Ms. Stephanie Silman. So we have two of our leaders of the whole state and beyond that are being recognized. You might remember that the National Association Award last year also resided with Sahuarita. Dr. Hill was awarded that honor. So they'll both be recognized at the upcoming Arizona School Administrators Conference, and we're very, very proud of them. And that concludes my comments for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on, governing board reports. Ms. Lowell.
I'd also like to concur Dr. Valenzuela's sentiments with the tragedy that's happened in the nation. We had so much to celebrate, and we do have so much to celebrate, but our hearts go out to those whose lives were cut short. I'm grateful for the city that we live in and the school district that takes matters so seriously as well as they did. It was great to celebrate the high school graduation with my fellow board members and be out there and watch all the families and the signs and the noise and the celebration and the fireworks. And I'm just extremely grateful for commencement of the year.
Okay, Dr. Sparks.
I think as we wrapped up the end of the year, well, not only the high school graduations, which is that
Yes.
pillar and pinnacle of kind of the high school or the K-12 experience, but also I was able to attend Copperview, Wrightson Ridge, and Anza Trail kindergarten celebrations, and watch the smiling faces and look back on my own time in the district and the changes over the years from my own child all the way up to graduation this year and that experience. And I too have to, with all we have to celebrate, I've been just a little somber the last couple days and just not quite sure how to articulate the concern and tragedy, over the tragedy that took place and my feelings about that as a whole. And I'm grateful, and I must say I spent a little time extra leaving my house this morning, and just being grateful for the community we live in, but also pondering the lives that have been irrevocably changed and altered tragically. So I'm grateful for the exciting end of the year that we had, and I'm grateful to be involved here, and I just have a lot of gratitude for the blessings that I have. Thank you.
Mr. Opaka.
No report this week.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then no report for me as well. So, thank you. That brings us to call to the public. Consideration and discussion of comments and concerns from the public. Those wishing to address the governing board on items not on tonight's agenda may do so at this time or at the board's discretion at the time the item appears on the agenda. Speakers are requested to hold their comments to 2 minutes or less. 20 minutes shall be allowed for both online and in-person comments. In accordance with the Arizona Open Meeting Law, board members may not respond, comment, or ask questions of speakers regarding issues not on the agenda. Any comments not read during this agenda item will still be entered into the public record. Dr. Sparks, how many speakers do we have this evening?
Madam President, 3.
Okay, so we shall proceed with the protocols as outlined. Dr. Sparks, please call our first speaker.
Our first speaker tonight will be Lewis Howard. Luis.
Picking up where I was put out a couple of weeks ago. The first handout which we provide contains great detail about the following outline of the presentation, especially about Roman numeral 1, letter B, background. Roman numeral 1, introduction. Subject, inappropriate material in the libraries and curriculums. A, anything related to what is commonly and erroneously called transgenderism, a phony, contrived, artificial, forced word designed to make the aberration appear acceptable. Roman numeral 2, purpose. A, to determine how to review the performance of SUSD governing board's governance in the following. Libraries content, the contents of various curriculums, any other materials which affect learning. Looking for any inappropriate material is defined by most Americans, those who understand and respect natural law, common sense, and reality. Letter B, to determine if any material used in the or teaching used in the curriculums is provided by any people or organizations in the list shown on the last page of the first handout. C, to determine which curriculum consultants have been used and which are being used now. D, to determine if there is any material or teaching which violates any existing state law or even of the proposed laws now circulating through the Arizona House and Senate. Roman numeral 3, justification. We provide the justification only because we do hope that there is no resentment by members of the governing board who might not appreciate our right to oversee such complicated matters as we intend to review, those which are of the greatest importance for the moral success of our students and intellectual success, or even by your administration and staff, and also understanding that no one likes to be second-guessed, but also knowing that what is at stake screams for review. Thank you.
Dr. Sparks, please call our next speaker.
I have the handouts here.
Okay. The next speaker will be Joanne Howard.
I found my way this time. Let's see. A, first, immediacy, and most importantly, we are the parents of the students under your immediate and very direct daily minute-to-minute control, but only in immediacy. B, second in immediacy, with you folks sitting in the only delegated authority and who ultimately designate our taxpayer funds for their applications. We are the taxpayers who provide the funds which SUSD uses for operation. And so Pima County and the state of Arizona determined that we parents, grandparents, and ultimately we taxpayers help you decide how to allocate those funds. C, third, generally and still greatly important, we are concerned citizens who are greatly worried about the moral direction of our beautiful republic. And so we are working to ensure, as well as we are able, and we are very able and willing to do this, for our children and grandchildren and ongoing generations so that all of us can lead healthy, fulfilling lives. And fourth method, the investigation will be made open and available to all parents and taxpayers. So we need cooperation in the following efforts: how to access catalogs in the SUSD schools libraries, how to obtain a complete list of curriculum consultants used by SUSD, specifically whether any material used in the curriculums now is provided by any of the people or organizations listed in the final page of the first handout. Fifth, conclusion. We can imagine that with your already busy work schedules, you do not need any further demand for information, but we are taxpayers and entitled to this information. Your serious study of this presentation is recommended for your own personal and practical reasons, and also as justified by the sickening and depressing information in the articles linked to the first handout, which describes the revolving incidents taking place around this great country. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Valenzuela, for the information about the tragedy that happened.
Yes, ma'am.
We're looking forward to receiving that
Yes, ma'am.
because that was a terrible,
Thank you.
terrible thing to happen. So thank you.
Dr. Sparks, please call our next speaker.
Renee Kibbe.
Before you start time, am I able to talk about what's on the agenda? Because it's about AZYP, or do I just
You
give
have
my
2
speech?
minutes to address the board.
Okay, so no back and forth conversation because it's on the agenda.
Not at this point.
So when it's on the agenda, I'm just asking because, okay. Okay.
The only thing I said, thank you for your question. The operative word is when the board has discretion at the point of the agenda to consider having the call to the public at that point in the agenda. So in other words, if Mrs. Kibbe would like to address that item at this point, she may.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam President, I believe it's the next item on the agenda, so hearing the information now would be appropriate.
Okay.
Okay. Do I still have 2 minutes?
Yes.
Or only? Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm here for AZYP and the ASBA School Board Member Handbook, page 78. It says curriculum versus standards, the means to an end. Standards are the end set at the state level. Define what we expect all Arizona students to know. Curriculum is the means chosen at the local level, the plan for day-to-day teaching to ensure mastery of the standards. AZYP, Healthy Relationship Curriculum Program Review, I want to talk about. I've already discussed some of it on April 13th, timestamped 22:15. If you have any questions about that, and I've learned more information. There's many music videos that encourage students to run away and has a lot of violence and unhealthy relationship promoting. And one of the singers actually has a place for runaways. So I don't know what that's about. So you may say, well, this is state approved. We should be able to do this. This is fine. Let me tell you, the state also has an online chat site with a quick click to exit button. It thinks it's okay for adults to chat with young teens about certain issues and encouraging to hide from parents. That is not acceptable. If the AZYP program is approved, the board members and superintendent will be expressing that this is the way that they want our district to go. For example, on SUSD website, Ready Common Core Reading 8th grade sample about the lost year, Little Rock, Arkansas. The lost year was led by the segregationists who wanted segregated schools. The mastery of the standards was successful through the guidance of the curriculum, the means, during the new lost year of 2020. Same exact plan that they had. We need to draw the line to protect our families, our students, and our town. It must be drawn tonight. If our town does not have strong families, it will be destroyed. So I ask you to please say no to this program, and no offense to the program people, but just the curriculum, even
Thank you,
the
Mrs.
Dibble,
Kibbe.
even the Dibble Institute did not want to share the videos.
Moving on, new business, instruction, discussion, and possible action, the AZ Youth Partnership Program. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, President Reese, members of the board, and public. This is an item that's been brought before the board and has proceeded through its comprehensive adoption process like we would with any adoption process. I would just make a few points before I turn the microphone over to my colleague, Assistant Superintendent Bonner. Number one, from the beginning, the counsel and communication that I received from Mr. Bonner as our Chief Academic Officer is that this is a programmatic need, that this is a need that that is present and that we have a duty and an obligation to address academically. And that if we're not addressing it, we're not addressing part of our mission of overall student success. Number two, I think that the program has been on display for 60 days. I think that the overall preponderance of the evidence suggests multiple indicators that it's balanced, it's sound, it's multifaceted. It's been through the process, which I'm not going to go into that because Mr. Bonner is going to give us a concise summary of that. And the other thing is that a component of our adoption, like with with many of our adoptions is we're about providing as much flexibility and choice. If somebody, for whatever reason, despite the thorough vetting, consideration, review, public display, and evaluation, and even if the board determines that in the overall consideration, this is a sound decision, we will still provide, besides the consent that's required, the opportunity for anybody that still would prefer not to participate, the opportunity for individual consideration and alternate assignment with no academic penalty of any kind. So those are the main themes that, basic themes that I wanted to convey. And with that, I turn it over to Mr. Bonner for his summary of the process. Mr. Bonner.
Thank you, Dr. Valenzuela, members of the governing board, and the Sahuarita community. Thank you for being here this evening. There is a programmatic need for the Healthy Relations program sponsored by Arizona Youth Partnership, also referenced as AZYP. And let's rewind a little bit. On your screen, also publicly displayed for the audience, just a review of the process. We are very committed to honoring the process, following board policy, and most importantly, being transparent in reference to sharing the materials, giving plenty of time to review, give access to review the curriculum, whether it's online or in person, and also to share feedback based on that process. So on your screen, just a recap, Sahuarita Unified School District has been working closely with Arizona Youth Partnership since 2013. Currently 11 counties in our state work with AZYP, 31 Arizona school districts, and this particular program is the Healthy Relationships Program that is under a 5-year grant. It's not a fee-based program for SUSD. We're not paying for it. It's grant funded through the collaboration with Arizona Youth Partnership. In addition to that, we had a long-running partnership with AZYP with our Strengthening Families program throughout our district, and those programs are still in place within our schools. This program was originally, the Healthy Relationships Program was originally presented to the governing board and the public during a public hearing on February 9th, 2022. It was also again presented to the governing board on the regular board meeting agenda for a brief overview presentation, as Dr. Valenzuela recommended, to table that recommendation for approval or to vote on for that process to then be implemented. And that process involves a 60 business day public review and comment. So that evening, our link on our district-wide website went active, and that link provided all of the proposed curriculum resources and program resources specific to this program, where parents can look, review, seek a deeper understanding of what was being presented. And there's also a public form to fill out any type of feedback. So that went active right away. In addition to that, we offered 4 public viewings here at the board meeting. We promoted 3, but we actually did 4, and again, it's here tonight for more public viewings. And we went above and beyond to make sure that at any time during the office hours, we had it publicly displayed at the district office for the 60-day time period. So we've done online viewing, public displays here at board meetings, and then public displays in the district office for over the 60 days. Through that process, we had 789 views online, 789 views, which is probably the most we've had in our other curriculum adoptions. And again, this is the same process that we follow for other district-wide adoptions. We also, based on the feedback forms, we had 2 online forms filled out. So out of the 789 views, only 2 forms were submitted for feedback. One was supportive, one was not in support of it. The other 2 forms were done in the district office, and those 2 forms were in support of the program. So a total of 789 views, but a total of 4 written comments overall, and 3 of the 4 were in support of it. We also did a lot of social media advertising, just reminding parents that these materials are out there publicly to take the time when they can to have access and to view. We wanted to make sure that parents knew that this information was being recommended, and we have honored that process. I want to again emphasize that this program with Arizona Youth Partnership is an opt-in program. Parents must give consent for students in grades 6 through 12 to participate. If parents do not give consent, Students are not penalized, and students will not participate. It's opt-in only. It is not a year-long course. It's taught throughout the course of the year, but given in certain days. So for example, the high school program typically runs 8 to 10 days. We would offer it one time in the fall semester, one time in the spring semester. Those programs would be offered during PE classes. So we will work with the PE teachers to schedule dates. Parent consent forms will be distributed, and all parents must give consent in order to participate. If they don't agree or don't want their children to participate, students will continue to go to PE class. No penalty, PE class continues, and we move forward with that program offering. The same will apply for middle school. Also offered during PE courses, parents must give consent. If parents do not give consent, students continue on with their PE class, no penalties given, must be opt-in. If the board approves this evening, the plan to move forward is to meet with our PE teachers and our school administrators on August 4th, 2022, to then do another program overview with our administrators and our PE teachers, and then to work closely with Arizona Youth Partnership to schedule the dates for next school year, and also going over the necessary and required parent consent form. So that would take place before school begins. And again, these courses would be offered based on PE schedules and periodically throughout the course of the school years. Again, it's not year-long. We are in full compliance with House Bill 2035 and State Board of Education Act R7-2-303, which means that we have to publicly display anything related to sexual education or healthy relationships. And we also post all of our curriculum adoptions on our district website under the curriculum of the district. So under curriculum resources, all of our adopted curriculum from reading, math, social studies, and if this was adopted, it will remain posted publicly on our webpage, and that is in place as I speak. I've invited Ms. Anais Acosta, who is one of the coordinators from Arizona Youth Partnership. She is here in the audience, so if there are any specific questions about the curriculum or program that the board may have, she's here as an additional resource, and we have worked closely with Ms. Acosta for several years, even stemming back from 2013. So with that, we're now back at full circle, and I will pass it back to Dr. Valenzuela to move forward.
Yes, ma'am. President Reese, members of the board, at this time, I do recommend approval of the Arizona Youth Partnership Program as it has been presented.
Okay. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Madam President,
Yes.
I know over the last couple of weeks, being out in the community more than I've been in quite a while. I did have one family approach me personally and individually, and they were supportive of the material. And I asked them for a number of questions just because they had seemed to at least review it. I mean, I'm just relaying my only interaction with the community other than here in the boardroom and the material received online. So just added that to the comment.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Madam President, if I may, just to
Yes.
add in some additional insight. A few years back, Arizona Department of Education established health courses as optional in school districts. And a few years back, we as a district opted not to require health course in our high school graduation requirements. And we continue to target programs that are academic, athletic, fine arts. And over that time, the intent was to embed some of these health standards into PE classes. And it's been very difficult to do that because of all the demands of PE teachers and the resources as far as trying to plug in the curriculum objectives. So there was a void with the healthy relations aspect. And we felt, working collaboratively with Arizona Youth Partnership and gathering feedback from stakeholders, from teachers, staff, that there was a need to make this recommendation where parents are part of that process to give consent to embed the healthy standards in the curriculum. So with that, we have the support of Arizona Youth Partnership. They will actually be the facilitators, working closely with the PE teachers. And so it's a better balance, and it's not year-long. It's, as I referenced, by semester over a given window of set days.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, both Dr. Valenzuela and Mr. Bonner. Okay. Let's see. Okay, new business, proposed authorization to exceed fund subcategories within the maintenance and operation budget. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, President Reese, members of the board. That has kind of a stigmatizing connotation. I assure you it's not the case. Basically, Arizona state statute authorizes districts to exceed some sub-funds. Sometimes during the course of the year, and I would imagine even more so toward the end of the year, there's a need to make adjustments in the budgets. What the state law does is it allows certain sub-funds, like, and by that I mean regular education, special education, transportation, other. It allows our CFO to make adjustments and movements of money within those sub-buckets as long as the overall approved budget, as it was approved in its revised final form, is not exceeded. So you can move stuff around as long as the bottom line still stays solidly in the black. Mrs. Huey brought this to me with the provision that this may be needed, and this comes up, it has come up regularly, almost every year procedurally, again, with the assurance that the M&O budget limit will absolutely not be exceeded. So therefore, I would recommend authorization to exceed the sub-fund categories within the maintenance and operation budget.
We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Student Activities Treasurer, Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. President Reese, members of the board and public, this is also a routine but required board action. Arizona state statute requires that a treasurer be designated by the board to oversee the operation of all student activities, you know, student council, student clubs, they raise funds. And so at this point, I would recommend the board's designation of our chief financial officer, Mrs. Lizette Huey, as the treasurer for these student activity funds.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion?
I'm always, every time this comes up every year, this is a pretty Herculean effort. Like we have a lot of booster programs and a lot of student organizations. So I appreciate the work you put into managing that, because it's a pretty big number.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, and I appreciate it as well. I wanted to make sure, just from sort of an organizational standpoint, I mean, are there others within your office that sort of help because this is a beast. So I just want to make sure that it's not your own little pillar out in the middle of a sea of student activities, because that's scary.
No, that is correct. I want to say it's my pleasure. And we do have a student account auxiliary clerk that does the day-to-day operations. And then because once you authorize me to be the treasurer, then I oversee it and make sure it falls into compliance and make sure that everything is done the way it needs to be done, because it's student raised money. And that's the only difference between this account and any other accounts that we have. It's because they're student raised monies. That's the only difference.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the public online auction items. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. President Reese, members of the board, once again, you have a list of district property that has exceeded its useful life. And we would like to designate it at this time for public option so that we may capture whatever residual value we can capture. And so I do recommend approval of that list of public online auction items at this time.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to the consent agenda. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. As usual, you have a lengthy list of routine consent matters that may be considered and approved in one motion. And this time, I do recommend approval of the consent agenda in its entirety.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Santa Cruz Valley Car Nuts for their incredibly generous donation for Sahuarita High School Auto program, as well as the Truing Corporation, the Valley Verde Rotary Club for their investment in our music programs, and just all of the donations. We can't do it without them. And our community, we're blessed to live in such a generous community. So thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, possible future agenda considerations. Does anyone have any possible future agenda considerations?
I just, I think at some point in time in the future, I would like just to kind of have maybe more information and assessment about 0-hour programs across the county. And as well, that's a pretty common occurrence across the state. I know, just I'm curious what goes on in Pima County and in our area. And the kind of impact of expanding that or not expanding that. I know we do have some 0-hour classes right now, but they tend to be CTE as a predominant whole, but I know in other locations, that 0 hour is an opportunity for children to expand their school day if they want to take more electives, if they want to be involved in more things. So I'm just curious, like a kind of a rundown of what's going on in the kind of in our county, in our area, the impacts that can have on budgets, teachers, just kind of an understanding of what's going on. If that's okay, I think that's something I'd like to dig into further.
Yes, sir. We can certainly prepare a presentation either in the regular meeting or perhaps as a study session.
That'd be great.
Okay, perfect. All right, anything else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Establish the next board meeting. The next board meeting will be held June 8th, 2022, here in the district auditorium. And then at this point, we were going to recess to move into executive session. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.